Don't worry, this isn't an interpretive dream sequence. It is V'ger Please, a hateful voyage through the Delta Quadrant. My name, it's Joseph.
And I'm your hallucination, Peter.
Are you my discount Mickey, Peter?
I'm so sick of Boothby. I'm glad this is the last Boothby episode that we're gonna have to.
Yeah, it's like talk about going on a low note. But you know what? Before we let's not do that yet. You mentioned to me before we started recording. You mentioned you listened to the last Delta Flyers, and you wanted to talk about something.
Yeah, man, Delta Flyer, the topic on my tongue every week, and how can it not be? You know, we are living this life of Star Trek Voyager, and I don't know for the average listener in the world like how relevant Delta Flyers could possibly be, but it is coming at such an opportune time for you and I, where I hang off of every word they say because it's shit that we've theorized and conjectured. What were they thinking on the set? What did the actors think about, these goofy lines they're making them say? And more to the point on this episode, as we get ready to discuss season 5, episode 17, The Flight.
It's episode 19, not 17.
Oh, it's 18, 19.
And
that's right.
And it's The Fight, not The Flight.
I don't know why I can't get it in my mind.
You managed to get that wrong in a spectacular fashion.
Well, they managed to get the fucking episode wrong in a spectacular fashion, so it's only fitting.
True story.
I'm giving it every drop of respect it's due. It's a Beltran, it's a Chakotay episode, and the Delta Flyers just reviewed Initiations, which was a Beltran heavy episode. That's the one with Aaron Eisenberg, which was the Chakotay buddy cop drama with the young Kazon. And I seem to recall we genuinely liked that episode. And they have a special guest star on, which is Robert Beltran himself. And I'll tell you, Joe, I fucking dig Beltran. I might have a dude crush.
I watch some of his convention videos, when they have the big Voyager panels, and he does seem like a pretty chill guy. He's kind of older. He's able to reflect with more maturity, I think, as a consequence. He's lived some life. And I think that helps a lot. I imagine it conflicted a bit with the Garrett Wang style of "let me tell you about how my pants fit in this episode."
It does. He's got that real chill, laid back feel to him. At the same time, he has retained what seems to be an impressive amount of Trek lore and knowledge of experience on the show. He doesn't seem shy to talk about it, and he seems like a really cool dude and a good guest. I wish he had more time on that, but the reason they brought him on specifically was to kind of honor Aaron, who had passed away, last year? 29?
Yeah, last year.
He was one of the many celebrities claimed by 2019's, which we thought at the time was a tragedy. So many famous, beloved people had died, and in reality, it was just fate sparing them from the woe of 2020.
And it got out while the getting was good.
Went on high notes. But yeah, he had a lot of really good insight on that, and just a very, very enjoyable episode. Hearing him talk on Delta Flyers, and when we started to watch The Fight at home, I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. I just listened to this Beltran episode, and here's a Beltran episode of Voyager, and that'll be a nice segue and some cool reflection points. And no, it wasn't. This is
and no, unfortunately it failed miserably.
Some fucking troll that lives under a staircase somewhere in the Paramount writers room descended from the depths of its vile cave and braved out into the world of sunlight so it could get into the writer's room and say, it's been too long since you have paid me respect. I am the shit script troll, and if I am not appeased, I will consume your firstborns. And then Joe Menosky, or whoever wrote this goddamn thing. Actually, it was Michael Taylor, wasn't it?
it's story by Taylor, teleplay by Minosky. So it sounds like the idea was Taylor's, and then the details were
You
Minosky's.
have not appeased the old gods of season 2. You must
Yeah,
give
what
us
was
our
what?
tribute of the worst fucking episode
It's
humanly
like Legends of
possible.
the Hidden Temple. It's like the Olmec or whatever
Mm-hmm.
the statue. You
Lamagra,
didn't
the blood
complete.
god, demands sacrifice.
You didn't complete the obstacle course. The Shrine of the Silver Monkey went unrated, and therefore, we've got to have a certified sneaker. And we were talking about how like season 5 was steady rolling. Like the drone was the only like certifiably terrible episode we had watched this
Well,
season.
move over, Drone. There's a new sheriff in town.
Oh boy, I did. I mean, I remembered the boxing shtick of this, but I probably haven't seen this episode in 20 fucking years. So
Well, I'm sorry you've had to do this to yourself, then revisit it.
I'm glad that someone else could suffer with me though, and
My
that
wife
person was
only
you.
there partially for it. She was playing on her phone and occasionally would look over her shoulder at the TV. And this morning she's like, "So was that a good episode last night?" And I was like, "No, it was fucking terrible." And she's like, "It didn't look good. It looked to me like someone in the 90s must have just discovered David Lynch and thought,
Yes.
hey, you know what? What if we tried to do Mulholland Drive as a Star Trek Voyager episode?" And I was like, that is exactly what it felt like. This is
It even had the weird in media res sort of setup to try and like screw with the timing, but not so much that it was a real Lynchian move. Like Mulholland Drive, the movie's just literally out of order, and part of the challenge is figuring out what's going on. Like when any David Lynch film, I guess. I appreciated this episode more for the fact that it was essentially a bingo card for every bad Chakotay trope from season 1 through season 3. It's like my inner V'ger please Stefan came out. It was this episode has everything. It has Indian bullshit flute. It has A-koo-chee-moya. It has Chakotay the Dream Warrior. It has everything that we hated about all. It has his annoying relatives played by bad actors.
and why?
It's got everything.
I thought that was like an awkward teenage phase that the show had grown out of. Like Chakotay went from being arguably the low point of the crew to probably like one of my favorite characters in the show. And yeah, man, it's just like he tried to go back in and put on a bunch of clothing that just did not fit anymore and look like a total asshole. Metaphorically, like all the looks that were bad for him were here by the handful. The show starts with a very hot opening. I actually thought it was a pretty cool, one of those like we're thrust into the middle of some crazy shit. We don't know what's going on. Chakotay's thrashing around. He's got the big fucking oversized doodads that the doctor likes to glue to people's necks and their temples.
Cortical implants. Yeah, cortical
stimulators, blockers, whatever. From the makers of Real Talk Tuvok comes hallucinogenic Chakotay. He's thrashing around in sick bay. Get him out of my head. Get him out of my head. The doctor's pressing him like, no, you're the only person going to decipher what they say. So instantly, okay, there's some goofy interphasic alien race and they're picking Chakotay as the mouthpiece, and there's some sort of communication issue and it's discomforting. It's what I think to be some pretty established sci-fi groundwork that they can just kind of speed through. And then he kind of chills out. I notice the doctor just calling him Chakotay, not Commander Chakotay, which I don't know why. The use of rank or the absence of rank when people are talking about each other in this episode really stood out to me, but the doctor
the dialogue was a little awkward when it came to how people were sort of interacting with each other, and not for any reason they established in the story. Like Tom's kind of just a dickhead the entire time, calls the captain sir at one point, which never happens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was just weird.
I don't really have a lot of notes about this because it was so bad and just a lot of eye rolly visual stuff. But so you're gonna have to kind of help me guide conversation on this. The doctor says, "Hey, listen, let's try to recenter you. I can't break off through medicine or letting you sleep or whatever the state you're in, or we're going to lose contact with this alien species. Bring it back to where it began. Do you remember how this all started?" And it had started on the holodeck in apparently a 40s era boxing.
Yeah, so I love boxing. I used to do some boxing back when I was approximately 10 years younger and 30 pounds lighter than I am presently. And it's certainly a way to test your adrenaline levels and your mettle and your willingness to get punched in the face. It's an interesting experience, I'll say that. And you'll never feel 3 minutes the same way again after you have spent 3 minutes in the ring with another guy who's trying to punch you in the face, and you are trying to punch him in the face. The mode they're trying to go for here is definitely, discount Rocky, right down to Boothby being Chakotay's cornerman / coach. Even's got like a sweater on exactly like Mickey from Rocky and Rocky 2. And he is Chakotay, that is boxing a holographic Terrarian. I didn't know what to catch the alien's actual identification. And
the alien was a trillion.
They're doing some decent actual like on-screen boxing, like with the actual exchanges that they're having. Their technique is, you can tell that Robert Beltran took doing this seriously, of trying to authentically box someone on camera. The only thing that was awkward to me was that the advice he gets from Boothby is essentially, go walk into some punches and tire him out, which is not exactly good advice, to say that.
They pan over and it's something like, "Oh God, is that Boothby? Please don't be Boothby."
Oh,
like you
totally
pointed
Boothby.
out, it's Boothby, who is so blatantly reading his lines off cue cards off stage that they had to try to position the camera to not directly face him as he's talking to Chakotay while reading his lines off stage. I don't know.
It's only Boothby because they already had him on this season. Like, he was already they already had him on 15 episodes ago when they went to the Species 8472 sex simulation, and that was also a Chakotay episode.
Yeah, a good one.
It's like
too.
The only other one this season.
Let's set aside criticism. Let's go in universe here for a little bit. The idea of having real people, real coworkers, real friends or whatever coded into the holodeck, and how that should really work in the 24th century. Like, if you're doing workplace simulators, even stuff like worst case scenario where you're planning, mutiny of a terrorist faction in the ship, or other like bridge training simulators, yeah, having coworkers or friends holographically simulated seems to make great sense. Taking people from your life and turning them into a closer relationship, and I'm not talking necessarily about sex, and in Boothby's case with Chakotay, I should certainly hope not that. But like, does it come off as creepy if I was like, I'm gonna make Joe my dude that I hang out and cook with on Fridays in my holodeck simulator? Like, granted, Boothby's not really serving on the ship, but still, it comes off as weird to be like, I'm gonna make this guy someone who's a close confidant or something more than just a casual hologram character in the background. Like, he's gonna be this inspirational source. Or does that come off as weird to you?
So I'm of two minds of it. One, this all appears to be something that Chakotay created himself, or that he took an existing like boxing program and like added this to it. we've established before, these guys are out there by themselves. They kind of have to figure out ways to entertain themselves. So I understand kind of maybe some of the social norms around holodeck stuff of like, well, I just copied this guy who was my coach to be my coach, for this boxing simulator, and it's okay. It's not like it's someone that's on the ship. It's really just for me personally. It's this specific circumstance of it doesn't seem weird. However, where is the line between what Barkley having what he did, which was obviously wrong and weird and super creepy, versus what's okay? Is it okay that you have a simulation where you're like totally buds with the first officer and you go out and you just like have drinks and bro fist each other, and in reality he's kind of a dick to you, he barely remembers your name, and you don't have a relationship with him at all? Like that's also kind of weird and creates this artificial sense of intimacy with a fake version of someone that you would think most people would find socially unacceptable.
And jumping back to, what was the 8472 training simulator called again?
I forget. In the Flesh? It was in the Flesh, I think. Yeah.
You just dealt with a fake Boothby already. Like, how many fake Boothbys do you need in your life? If if I was I don't know, if I was a space dude and then I came across a race of people that we had thought were so bad that my captain allied with the fucking Borg over, and their chosen representative leader a couple weeks later was a replica of my high school history teacher, I don't know if I'd be especially motivated to make my high school history teacher that same one, the guy who's going to teach me how to make pizzas in my holodeck simulation. Like, chill out on the Boothby, Chakotay. It's weird.
You started this whole thing with like potential sexual elements, so we don't know what's lurking in that Chakotay, Chakotay closet.
Stop.
I'm only bringing up the things you mentioned, Peter. This is a hell of your own creation.
It was a hell of Joe Manowski's creation. The, I would argue, only cool thing that happens all episode happens in this scene. And as Chakotay squares back off the Trellian, he kind of has this weird moment where he's stunned and seems to take a close look at the room around him. And as we pan the camera back over the Trellian, this really cool, like, geodesic mirror pattern unfolds out from behind the character, kind of like angel wings. And it looks really great, even for what is traditionally Voyager's typical 90s budget, terrible CGI regiment. But it looks really cool. Of which
there will be plenty in this episode.
Yes. Spoiler alert. But this one looks fucking great. It looks modern. It looks cool. And
it kind of reminded me of the effect you see a lot in the new Deus Ex games, where they do the sort of like collapsing kaleidoscope, like a mirror smash kind of effect.
Is that something they actually... I thought that was just marketing stuff. Is that actually in the game?
Yeah, they use that effect within the game and in the menus and that sort of thing. It's part of their aesthetic for sure.
The triangle, aesthetic is the right word. But Chakotay is just kind of like, wow, what's going on? And that's when the hologram, like, fucking sucker punch, not sucker punch, but, peels him off a fresh one like he's Dobie, just standing around begging for a left hook across the face.
He programmed the Dolby punch into his opponent because he wanted him to have
an even
chance. Yeah, you wanted to be fair. Like, you can't keep that weapon to yourself and expect to have a challenge. You've got to give the Dolby punch power to your sparring partner.
What was the episode that name out of that one? The season 1 finale that was a terrible pick. Space Friendship is Magic. What was that one, actually? Whatever. When Delta Flyers did that one, like, they spent a lot of time dissecting the Dolby punch there. I'm glad to see that it's awkward blocking for no matter who the audience was for. But he gets knocked the fuck out and he wakes up in sickbay. And we have a pretty strong Bob Picardo episode, actually.
Yeah, I would say he's the only saving grace. There's a lot of Bob Picardo trying to crowd out everyone else's poor acting. I mean, Robert Beltran just isn't very good in this one. He just isn't. Like, he's given a lot of space to like be in anguish in a lot of different times to really turn on his acting and make you feel it. He just kind of has to act against Bob Picardo and fails. It's shades of what happened to Harry Kim when Garrett Wang was asked to do all that romance dialogue like 2 episodes ago when he was banging the '90s space hottie.
I think the Chakotay in pain on the bridge stuff is good enough. As good as this episode was going to get for him. I think the parts where Beltran really falls apart is with all the grandfather stuff we get subjected to. And as he's forced to play his emotions off of another actor who is super community theater level, I don't blame him for the poor performance that is a result.
In any case, he has his stern talking to from the doctor about how boxing is barbaric. It is essentially a sport in which one person is attempting to concuss the other enough times to render them unconscious. It is a sport made for brain damage. It is definitely not something you would expect most people in the 24th century to approve of. So I do respect the doctor being like, "This is stupid, and I can't believe people do it. You're all dumb, probably because you box."
What is surprising to me is the line that Chakotay throws out that there's nothing like a good fight doctor. And for Chakotay, they've really gone out of their way to portray him as a pacifist, despite the fact he's a fucking space terrorist, right? Even when we go back to, was it Prey or The Hunt? The one with the space predator Manchurian candidate situation?
Oh, yeah, where they all talk in that way that you hated. Their footfalls must be silenced, and they must think of their mothers and foremothers.
I just had to watch the fight, please. I can't be further traumatized. But we spent half that episode like, Chakotay's a terrorist who kills Cardassians for a living. Like, where's all this pacifism coming out? We've really had it beat into us that Chakotay is a pacifist first and foremost, who would rather have the ship slither away on its belly leaking piss instead of fighting space whales or whatever that was in the coffee episode. For him to have this new exciting hobby that apparently he's all about, same deal as Paris got earlier with his secret underwater fetish that no one knew about. It just really seemed jarring.
I certainly think the inconsistency of Chakotay's backstory overall is a problem. That he is a professional murderer before he gets, his second chance in Starfleet vis-a-vis being stuck in Delta Quadrant on Voyager, but is also a pacifist. These things do not make sense. What seems more likely is they were trying to say he is a pacifist by nature for the most part, but he was but the Cardassians were so terrible he was drawn to fight on their behalf, in the Maquis insurgency, which is a fine line to take, but they don't have him take that line. Instead, as you say, they beat us over the head over and over with this idea that he's secretly just this very sensitive man, and don't reconcile that to the fact that he purposefully left Starfleet to go join a ragtag bunch of murder hobos cruising around the DMZ with the likes of Lon Suter, who he knew, by the way, was a murderer, and was just like, kind of need him. Like, or the guy he randomly eulogized before an episode.
His coal mining buddy he loved so much that we never saw him on screen.
Because they got into a fight together too. Like, they never marry these two parts of his character in a way that makes any sense.
I want to go deeper on this because you've given me something to really think about. Chakotay is saddled with this garbage backstory. I would say arguably the worst backstory, not arguably, for sure. I mean, the fucking tattoo we named "Keep Your Backstory to Yourself." Like, that's how bad, from his false Native American rubber tree fucking mishmash cultural butchery that they tried to pass off under whatever the fraud was that was their Native American consultant, to these other elements. Like, Chakotay saddled with his trash backstory. He is a great character in the moment. He's a great character of now. But as soon as you try to make him lean back on this fucking this collection of garbage short stories that he comes from, the character falls apart. I don't know what the right way to rewrite him would be, but I think that if you could have given him something decent, like I like Disgraced Starfleet Officer, that part's good. Everything else is just trash. And
what got me though, because you're right, it is trash. It is the worst backstory. These things you're saying is correct, but they got him out from under it.
Yeah,
they got him out from under it by effectively using parts of his backstory in episodes that were really good, like the episode where Neelix has the near-death experience, or is dead, like not near-death, was dead, got resurrected by nanoprobes, didn't see his version of the afterlife, and he turns to Chakotay for spiritual help, and he tries to help him, and he gets a very uncertain, disquieting kind of answer to his vision quest, and Chakotay's trying to explain to him, like, these, you can't take these things at surface level. There's this whole spiritual growth that comes with this, and it made so much sense, A, for him to be the character that did that because of his backstory, and B, what his response to that was, and try to basically play this spiritual counselor role. And they got him out from under the garbage so well, like
free and clear too.
Yeah,
like someone had said something stupid, and then they had to spend 15 minutes explaining why what they said wasn't stupid. And it's like, cool, we can move on and just deal with the future of this character. And then immediately fall back to that stupid thing they said and reinvoke all of this trash. Why? You fixed the character. Stupid episodes like this, where you just want them to slap the A-koo-chee-moya, slap the fucking spirit journey button, just undoes all that hard work you put into to unfuck him. And that's exactly what happens in this episode, right? Like,
yeah, the next scene actually starts it off, because they go to the bridge. There's the space conundrum, blah blah blah. They're stuck in this chaotic space thing, which of course 7 of 9 is helpfully able to describe because the Borg have encountered it before. And when they cut back to Chakotay, he's in his quarters, and that's when you hear the stilting sounds in the background of the Indian bullshit flute. Like, I heard it, and I'm like, yes!
Shame on you for not having that audio queued up, Jen.
Dude, I looked for it. I forgot. I was trying to get ready for us to broadcast tonight, and I'm like, I gotta find this thing, and I couldn't find it. And I realized the last time I used it, I was using my old computer, so I don't actually have the audio file on this computer anymore. And I was like, God damn it! I only tried to find where I found that, because I like hunted down some YouTube video of like Indian flute music or something. I couldn't find it. Like, God damn it. I'm going to find it for post-production, and it's going to be playing over this entire discussion. It's the only way it can be done. Believe in me.
I believe in you. So he starts hallucinating on the bridge, and I thought this was also kind of a cool scene too, where he thinks he sees the boxing gloves. He hears the computer announcing his match. He hears the crowd roaring, and he starts losing his shit. And everybody else is on the bridge is like, no, I don't hear that. No, I don't see that. And then he just kind of snaps and starts throwing left hooks at Tuvok, who I think would have been excellent if we would have been treated at least one time. Chakotay blasts Tuvok in the mouth, but his reward for his little outburst is he gets put in the Vulcan nerve pinch and dragged back down to sickbay.
The big focus of the episode is the next scene, right? Like, because it's this extended, as you said, Lynchian dream sequence, because Chakotay Dream Warrior, Chakotay the Dream Warrior, makes a reappearance. He wants to do a vision quest to explore this thing that's happening to him, because what has occurred is there's this latent gene that causes hallucinations that was suppressed by Federation science
doctor, which before he was born, and again, this drags out the what the fuckness, right? He's part of this rubber tree people tribe that's very spiritual, very off the grid. they're so far off the grid they don't even have last names somehow in the 24th century, whatever, right?
Right.
Of some weird Central American and or Native American ancestry, whatever. His dad's super deep into this, as we were drilled in the face and tattoo. Yet, even with all this return to the simpler ways and all this other stuff, like their kids are still going through gene therapy. Okay, it doesn't jive, but whatever. He's got this genetic defect that for some reason has reawoken. Spoiler, it's the native aliens to chaotic space turning this on because that's going to allow them to kind of communicate.
By making Chakotay crazy, they can make him crazy enough to talk to him, which I like that idea. It is a classic Voyager. Oh, what a neat idea. Let's just waste it by kicking fucking dirt onto it over and over and over again. And that is, they use a metaphoric framing device of Chakotay's boxing simulation to communicate the ideas of, first, his capability of communicating with the aliens, and then after that, and his own subconscious, doubts about being able to do so because of this baggage he has about his family having this gene and his grandfather essentially refusing medical treatment for having, these hallucinations. And then ultimately, stepping forward to quote unquote have the fight where he has to suffer through the contact with the alien, represented by basically a galaxy person punching him in the face over and over.
The low point of the episode for me, one of the low points, was during the discovery phase of all this, that maybe Chakotay is going to be the chosen conduit. Normally this would be Geordi LaForge in TNG terms, that, oh, my ocular implants on the side of my head can pick up this weird frequency and now I'm getting background. Like this is the setup we're dealing with. And again, he just rolls over and slaps that A-koo-chee-moya button, like, and I quote, I need to go on a vision quest. And it's like,
first thing off the bat, no
I
other
need to go on a vision
discussion.
quest. We haven't heard, I think thankfully the last time we were subjected to this was the Napoleon Dynamite butthole space vampires.
That's correct.
Where he had the moon device that he was supposed to, where he fights the alien with a spear and then a fist fight and puts it in a hammerlock before the
they know they're stuck in a dream. They're inceptioned because he sees the moon in after they quote unquote wake up.
Overly explained Inception. What a terrible episode that really was. But yeah, I must go on a spirit quest or vision quest. Like, there's nothing mystic about it. He goes on these vision quests in these bad episodes. Like, the good example of it is when he helps Neelix, and Neelix has something that's highly interpretive, dream state, right? And the bad stuff is like Napoleon Dynamite episode, whatever the fuck that was called, where and here where it's just he
Waking
goes
Moments
on these
was that episode, by the way.
He goes into these vision quest states the same way you or I would turn the lights on and off or turn a TV on. He gets out his trusty old hand vibrator space peyote, right?
They treat it like he has superpowers because he's an Indian. That's always been the fucking bag about what we mock about it, is they treat like as someone of a different culture as if that culture comes with supernatural powers. It would be as insensitive as, say, a role-playing company making an entire source book about how Roma people have secret powers within your gaming universe. By the way, that's
to your point.
That's something that someone did at one point.
But to your vampire point, right? Your Vampire the Masquerade point. He goes on vision quest the same way someone would go into astral projection. He spends that willpower, and boom, he is now
drops to the floor, and he's good to go.
Yep. Hey, watch me. I'm going to go astral. Please don't let anybody put their dick in my mouth and take a picture. That's 90s vampire for you right there.
Yeah, we did it.
They got the flute going in the background. Lighting was strange in this episode. It's intentionally strange in his hallucination vision quest state, and I think just even on Voyager itself, everybody looks weird. Beltran looks real off. All the weird camera shots.
His hair was so weird in this episode. Why?
That's the same
Why did he
hair.
have that page boy haircut?
Well, that's the same hair he had back in Living Witness when it was evil holographic Chakotay who beat people unmercifully. No, that was Harry Kim that was punching people. No, that one he was cool. He was like sadistically sympathetic. His hair goes back and forth. The whole boxing thing I read on Memory Alpha, like he was kind of cool about doing it. It was like, hey, give me 3 weeks notice so I can get in great shape. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. You're doing this tomorrow. So he is noticeably, for a boxing episode, never shirtless. He's always got these t-shirts and stuff on.
I feel that. I do.
I feel it too, man. I got no stones to throw.
I would need at least 2 months of strict sit-ups to get anywhere close to my shirt off.
I would need a Roxanne Dawson cargo container full of push-ups.
That's all of them. That's all made, and all of the ones that were made in 1997.
You joke about it, but that was rough, man. I remember the push-up shortage of 98 when she really cornered the market on push-ups and didn't leave any for the rest of us. It was hard. These kids these days, they think this COVID thing's rough. What she did to the push-up economy was just fucking wrong.
Yeah, she really crashed it. It was awful.
So we get the hand jive vibrator. We get the A-koo-chee-moya. I really feel like these moments where he's going on Vision Quest, where he's A-koo-chee-moying, should be Robert Beltran's like Alan Rickman moment from Galaxy Quest, where it's like the mere mention of A-koo-chee-moya or anything like that should just bring such a level of seething out of him that he was forced to repeat that stuff humiliatingly so many times. But it's here in force, unfortunately. And we just start bouncing around to this sloppy interpretation boxing match. The ship getting knocked around. Nobody's able to do anything of value on the ship. I did like to think about like the Borg as they reach into like the real frontiers of civilization and strange oddities of space with their collective mind, encountering crazy shit like this. And like, how would the Borg have handled radically shifting realities and astral currents and all the other stuff in this? There's a little point where, as they move forward with some somewhat better sensor perception, they find a ghost ship adrift, and the crew of that ship had befallen a similar fate where everybody just died of exposure and crazy space madness. I was so fucking checked out this episode. I'm struggling to find anything to talk about. There is a certain moment where...
Let me alleviate you for a moment. Okay. Let's just mark the list off. Okay. So I mentioned the Indian bullshit flute starts in Act 1 and continues through the rest of the episode, right? And all of the like in the scenes where Chakotay is leaning into his backstory. 2, A-koo-chee-moya actually says the line, he has the Oregon Trail rock that we saw way back in season 1.
Bingo list up?
I don't have a bingo list, but I made note of all of these things, He has the Oregon Trail rock in his hand when he gets woken up from one of the Vision quests. So you remember that. He says that he says the whole thing that he said in I guess it was the episode that the Delta Flyers just did, where he's like, I'm many, many moons from my ancestors. I'm far from them, Show me a spirit to guide me the way. All this. Did the whole spiel from before. You mentioned the very community theater. We got a guy who is an elderly Native American actor. We found the guy that was working.
The worst
the day player we could get for scale. That had a SAG card. We got him, and he was just terrible. And that goes towards, young Chakotay was terrible. Chakotay's dad was medium to bad. all of the Chakotay line, poorly acted. It's an important part of their continuity. They had the I guess that ends all of the Chakotay-isms. Oh, the immediate acceptance of the captain of the, yes, you may do your supernatural powers, my second in command Indian friend. I in the same way that she would treat basically a mind meld, she treats the Vision Quest. Which, by the way, remember in season 1, she was like a tourist about. Like, she was like, "Oh, tell me of your exotic culture. I will humor your thoughts that it's actually true."
The dichotomy in this episode between people who want to believe Chakotay has an answer and the people who vehemently disagree and think he's crazy is mind-boggling. Like, the doctor pushing him dangerously 110%. Like, Chakotay's like, "Get these guys out of here. They're ripping my mind apart. I'm afraid I'm going to go crazy forever." And the doctor's like,
"Nah, you fine.
You must trust them. You must trust them." Like, what? Where's your objectivity at? And then finally, the whole crew's like, "Oh, God, our only real chance in saving the day here is going to be Chakotay's first contact situation," which nobody brings up. Like, "Hey, Chakotay, you're the guy who wants to be Mr. First Contact. Like, here's your chance, right? This is your whole thing about Spider Skull Island and respecting other cultures. Like, respect the way they want to communicate with you." When he finally has the way to get the ship out, like, he gets up to the bridge before he forgets, and like Harry Kim and Tuvok are trying to block him. Like, "No, what's he doing?" Like, obviously he's doing the thing you all have been making him go through torture to do. Like, get the fuck away from your computer. Just let him type the codes for retrograde shielding or whatever it was. I'm looking at their official Darius Voyager bingo card here, by the way, and I think we might actually have a legit bingo situation.
Ooh. Okay. All right. So
I would say
take us
previous
through.
character development is ignored for the sake of plot.
Okay.
Because we have moved past a lot of his crap. Shuttlecrafts are safe. Did B'Elanna yell at anybody?
Yeah, she did. The dream sequence, B'Elanna.
She does, yeah.
Does yell
Dirty
at someone.
sex dungeon stuff happens on the holodeck. I have in my notes here that this is the result of somebody's boxing fetish. And given the inclusion of Boothby, I'm going to say, yeah, dirty sex dungeon stuff.
We actually unironically explored that. So yeah.
Janeway endangers the crew needlessly. I do not lay this at Janeway's feet. Borg nanotechnology did not save the day. Alien race does show up with weird stuff in their hair. Their weird stuff was like the galaxy, but
yeah.
Does Neelix serve a disgusting meal?
No, actually, Neelix only shows up in the dream sequence.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Astrometrics lab scene, absolutely. Consoles do explode. A-koo-chee-moya, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Ship security breach due to Tuvok's ineffectiveness. No, that's a pass. Doctor acts contrary to Hippocratic Oath. I would say he does certainly pressure Chakotay into dangerous
and to definitely doing something he's psychologically uncomfortable with. Physiologically, maybe not, which I think is the case that he makes to the captain. Like, that he is physiologically fine. This is all in his mind.
Alien race shows up looking like humans. Kind of true. Time travel, no. Holodeck malfunction, kind of. And here's the big one: is can we do this to get a bingo, Joe? A situation occurs where Lon Suter would have been an asset. What would Lon have done here?
Ooh, man, I want that to be true, but I don't know if we can.
It would have been that boxing match where Chakotay's nervous, and it would have been a WWF moment, and Lon comes in not with a folding chair, but with a space pipe and busts the chaotic kid over the head with a space pipe. What if instead of fucking boxing, Chakotay was really big on WWE, and that this had just been a professional wrestling episode instead of boxing? How great would that have been?
What if Lon Suter, still alive, freed from his imprisonment due to his heroic actions against the Kazon, has holodeck privileges? His holodeck time is spent working out his homicidal tendencies. So it's literally like a murder simulator where, he has negative thoughts about something. So rather than acting on it in person, he goes to the holodeck and murders that person there, right?
Joe, that's already Tuvok shtick, please.
Well, no, it's only for choking Neelix. It's very limited. So this is more of an omni-murder simulator. And it's not like, it's just, oh, hey, what's going on? Like, oh my God, not the pipe. So what if, because he's a betazoid, his brain works differently than everyone else's, the aliens latch on to him and they start using his last holodeck program to communicate it, and it's literally him having to confront over and over again, murdering all of his crew, crewmates in his therapy simulator, and so they have to deal with his like murderous tendencies coming back to the surface as he attempts to communicate with the aliens. It would have made for a better episode. Can we count that? Can we count that?
Absolutely.
Okay, we did it.
You had me at lawn.
Bingo.
Okay, you had me at lawn.
We did it. Oh, man. It is the bad Chakotay backstory rehash you never wanted. It's the bullshit straight from Tattoo, straight from Chuck Otay, the Dream Warrior, straight from every other time this man has been forced to say A-koo-chee-moya. It's never good. So this isn't either, because this backstory sucks.
This is season 1, season 2 level bad. I am flabbergasted that this somehow saw the light of day under season 5, and this is hands down the worst episode we've gotten all season. Shame on them for bringing this thing to life. Again, I don't know who had just gone through their David Lynch phase and thought that they could do what he does, but you cannot, and this is the result. This is a waste of time. We come away no stronger than we entered. There's no real takeaway lessons. It's boring. I'm looking at my cell phone more than I was watching, and it's been a long time since I've said that this robbed me of my life. But that is what this episode did. So
it's nice for them to drop another a shitty one on us now and again, just to remind us who we're dealing with. Like, we got a little too comfortable. You don't know a
sunny day without a rainy day, and this was a tsunami of crap.
This used to be the norm for us. I think it's important to recognize this used to be what we've had to face week in and week out, and the good episodes were a respite. And now the situation is quite reversed, and we rarely run up against a certified turd like this. So I agree. This is season 1, season 2 level bad, but it's also probably the worst episode we've watched in a year.
Yeah.
At least
a real life year.
Yeah. In a real life year of watching Voyager episodes, it may be the worst one we've seen in a full year.
Yeah. I need to update the wall of shame, but I do not disagree with you. We've got a podcast friend, Mike, who has decided to just start binge watching Voyager, and kind of watching him go through the accelerated process of questioning why he's putting his time in as he goes through season 1 and 2 has been schadenfreude delightful. Like,
we understand his pain, and we've experienced it, obviously, bit by bit. And we keep telling him, don't worry, it gets better. And it does. But man, season 2 is the worst.
But coming up next, Joe, season 5, episode 20, then?
Yes, 20.
Netflix 19. Think Tank. We got George Costanza, I think.
Yes,
chilling
you
out
do.
in the sickbay. Voyager is sought after by the Hazari, unyielding bounty hunters of the Delta Quadrant. A group of problem solvers offer a way to outwit the Hazari.
In the most unexpected of guest starring roles that you will find, fresh out of doing Seinfeld, which is nuts to me, because it's probably, like, how is it that you decide to do UPN's Star Trek Voyager after being on the most successful sitcom of all time? But they somehow talked him into it. That is, in fact, Jason Alexander guest starring in this episode as an alien. It's probably...
How do you say no to Star Trek? you are at the height of comedy sitcom power. You can do whatever you want, and there will be no black marks on your name unless you go into some really, for the time, anti-woke stand-up a la other members of that show. Absolutely go after that Star Trek, man. Like, you're not an actor until you've been on Star Trek, right?
I guess, and it's probably one of those things like it is for all these guys, which is I always loved Star Trek and I got the chance to be on it. You know, like that's what happens. Like we've had the current king of Jordan. He did that. He pulled that move. Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine. He's going to pull that move a little later.
Is he? I did not know about that one. That's exciting.
Yeah. The Tom Bergeron gets a role on Enterprise. The same situation. He just loves Star Trek and eventually just talked his way into it because he, like knows Whoopi Goldberg, who got Rick Berman to put him in it.
You don't say no.
Yeah.
Okay, I've talked so much shit about Picard, and if someone said, "Hey, do you want to be an extra on Picard that gets shot or a drink spilled on your lap?" I would say yes. I would look like the biggest fucking hypocrite, but you don't say no to Star Trek, man. You don't.
I would say no.
You say you'd say no, but you would say yes. But thankfully, neither of us will ever know because hopefully Picard season 2 won't see the light of day. But
if COVID kills one thing, hopefully it's that. Oh, on that note, thank you for joining us here on VG Please Haven Voyage to the Delta Quadrant. We will see you next week.